Jim, welcome to Morning Markets. It is the 1st of October, the start of Q4. Are we going to see the classic big green Q4 on Bitcoin? Let's see. I know my subscriber count is definitely up only, so hopefully Bitcoin can follow suit. And I appreciate all of you guys. We just hit 100 subscribers. So again, if you do enjoy these videos, you do value this content, drop a subscribe, drop a like, drop a comment, help boost that engagement on the channel so I can push it out to more traders to save you guys from the deep, dark depths of crypto YouTube because it's a terrible, terrible place for traders who want to make money, let's be honest. So without further ado, my analysis in morning markets and weekly outlook, let's say, is playing out pretty damn accurately. So if we can see the support resistance levels that I laid out in the weekly markets video Sunday night, where are we bouncing from? Oh, exactly that level. Should be no surprise to see Bitcoin rallying here because it's rallying off that exact high time frame support resistance that it has rallied from early 2025, in 2024, in 2023. It's been the theme all cycle to have these retests that hold and lead to new highs. And so far, we haven't seen new highs yet. However, we are bouncing. So good to see going into Q4. As I mentioned, you see that you can get bullish start of quarter flows, typically in Q4 because it's on average a very bullish quarter, not just for Bitcoin, but in the stock market, in other assets. So big traders, big hedge funds, pension funds, they allocate their capital at the start of the quarter. They are not price sensitive. They just deploy because they have a mandate to do so. And I dived into that as the bull case in weekly outlook, and so far seeing that play out. So we go to the lower time frame charts on Bitcoin. What have we seen since yesterday's video? Well, we initially lost this low. As I mentioned, you could see a flush going into the New York session because there are a lot of late longs built up over here. I remember telling you guys this video here, watch out for a sweep and that sweep to get bid up and lead to new highs. And if you remember, I also showed you this chart where I told you longs are getting over leveraged within this consolidation. Easy to wick them out, take that London and Asia session liquidity before rising higher. And well, once again, that played out damn well accurately. So if you haven't subscribed, please hit that button. I think I deserve it after all these calls every single day playing out pretty much to the goddamn T. So that setup was beautiful. We front run the weekly open level, so there's real strength here on Bitcoin. We found support at the 1 hour 50 EMA before going to new highs, broke above 115k, and we hit my target of the weekend liquidity. Been going on about this level forever now. I told you weekend liquidity is weak. It's generally a target. So from here, we've closed strongly above it and we're continuing to accept above it so far. So while we accept above this level, Bitcoin's bullish and you can head to this liquidity over here at 117.8k. Looks like that's what Bitcoin wants to grab. But of course, you're always looking out for your reversal signs. So if we do see Bitcoin start closing below the liquidity level, the weekend liquidity, you could potentially start to see this gap fill in here. So we have a very strong impulse candle right off the Asia session, actually, which is interesting to see. So this is now the gap you're working with. Any dips you want to see hold within this gap, and that's going to set up for higher. And if we start to alternatively bleed and fill in this gap, then that probably sets up for lower. Just like the setup I mentioned yesterday in morning markets, you had this gap over here. and this gap held. In the video, I took the gap from here to here. You saw price come down into it, found support, didn't even have to fill in the entire gap before bouncing, leading to new highs. And that's off this lovely impulse candle here. You had 1 and 2 there. They are just high volume and high open to close candles. That's what they are. And what you saw is price find support. So in the bullish scenario, you want to see that continue. Price find support. If we do dip into this gap over here, you don't want to see it bleed and fill in. Otherwise, you're probably looking at the red path and we have to come back down to perhaps some of these lower levels, perhaps the weekly open. I think the weekly open is your higher time frame, let's say, for trading this week, your invalidation. So for swing longs, you don't want to see price go below that weekly open. That's your ultimate support level. But for intraday trading, you've got this first gap here, and then you've also got this second gap, which previously held as support over here. So they're your two levels to watch for intraday, and that's your level to watch for swing trading for your multi-day hold. So that's what I'm looking at on BTC here, getting a really nice push as it stands. Not started the New York session, of course, so this is all pre-New York price action. So interesting to see what those Wall Street bulls do when they come in. So that's going to be in a couple hours time. I think we can probably see a flush, but if we take a look at the data, that's probably going to give us a better look. So let's go to the data and see what is happening position-wise, because yesterday's video, as I said, played out super nice just by analyzing simple order flow. You don't see people on YouTube analyze this stuff, and that's why it's the stuff that makes money. So what we've seen this morning is a build up over here. So let's see from really this candle here. Had a build up of 2.12% open interest. So that is again longs and shorts opening on net. It literally means there's more interest in the market. And price is up 1.91%. Not sure if that's the most refreshed version. Let's quickly refresh it because I saw there was a move there. Yeah, we have made a new high. So let's take that again. Let's see how that's changed. So open interest again is up 2.17%, so not changed. And price, however, it's made a new high just now, so that is up 2.25%. It's a pretty healthy market, actually. Remains healthy. Still seems to be a short squeeze, which is why it remains healthy. It's actually shorts that are fueling this move to take it higher. And while that is a good thing, you do need to see spot come in and support the price as well. Otherwise, as soon as the shorts are all hunted, it's going to lead to this move getting mean reverted. So do need to see a spot bid also come in. And don't get me wrong, short squeezes can go very high. They can go much higher than you expect. But for it to be a sustainable rally, you need that spot bid, need that spot demand. And while we saw the green spot CVD market orders were selling off this morning, we're actually seeing the spot bid return. So off that pump of the Asia, had a healthy spot bid with it. Spot and futures are both in harmony, both going up together. So this looks like a strong, valid move, and I think we're going to push higher. Funding is healthy, no crazy rate of change, so not seeing any signs of over leverage here. There's still shorts to be taken out, and as I said in previous video, bears are in danger. That was one of my video titles this week, and oh boy, they just keep shorting, don't they? So they can fuel our squeezes. As I've been sharing with you this chart over here, as long as we got above 112, bulls had the momentum and shorts were in danger. Said this in weekly markets, been saying it in every morning markets video. This was the key level to reclaim as all of this open interest then gets put back in favor of the bulls and against the bears. The higher we go, the more likely this can actually see a flush by taking out short liquidity. And of course, below 112, at your inval, that's when the longs that built up here are then at stress and potentially going to add to selling pressure. So while we're above it, you're just seeing this short squeeze that I've been calling literally all week. So GM to that. Hope you guys been catching some lovely long trades. I know I have. I've been very short term though, day trades. So hard to update in the videos when it's 1 hour, 2 hour holds. But I've seen you guys sharing with me in my DMs some super nice trades. So GM to that. I know you guys are making a lot of money in this recent rally. So lovely stuff. When we look at the Bitcoin ETF flows, we're seeing another solid day of Wall Street bidding. And best way to actually look at that is look at the Coinbase chart, because majority of the ETFs, their custodian is Coinbase. They also do a little bit on Kraken. But if you then check the Coinbase chart, which is where the majority of the inflows actually get bought on, you can analyze the volume. And that gives you a good gauge into what the ETFs are doing. So let's get our volume up here. As you can see, during the New York session, you got some really nice spikes of volume. I think this was on the open of the New York session. Again, you got a really nice spike of volume. And you're seeing that from the ETFs, they are bidding this rally. Volume is rising. Volume is rising, volume is rising. This is harmony, guys. This is very bullish. There's no two ways about it. I'd expect this market to continue rallying higher. And it would continue rallying higher until you see a divergence. And what would that be? Well, I go over this in my course on WOP. I got a full trading course where if you actually see price continue to make new highs, so new high over here, but you see volume actually make a lower high. So if you actually saw volume, on the other hand, go down as it makes new highs, that's when you see a divergence and then you urge caution. You look at your market structure, you see, okay, trend is going higher, but if there's a market structure break on the price action here on the candles, I've seen a volume divergence, and this can be a highly likely top. But until then, there's no signs of a divergence. Volume is growing as price goes higher. And the reason that's bullish is because that literally means there are more and more buyers, or more buyers with more size, entering long on the market as it rises. So the higher the market goes, the more buying power there literally is. So very strong. Looks like this wants to target higher levels. And I think that 117.8K liquidity could even get hit today, maybe in the coming days. And you're really just seeing, again, what I said on weekly markets, end of month, start of month rally as we front run the typical bullish Q4 flows. That was the bull case, and it's playing out super nicely. So that's the low time frame. Looks very good. You just want to let the chart play out now. Don't get in the way of a short squeeze. I won't be shorting this until you see a reversal sign. So until you see an actual topping formation, and maybe that's coming to this liquidity, sweep, break the structure over here, until you see something like that, don't want to get in the way of a violent uptrend. You don't want to get in the way of a moving train, as they say. You want to wait for the train to stop and it to show you that it's likely to change direction. Now, of course, it doesn't work 100% of the time, but it's better than getting short and the market's just going up. Don't want to be doing that. So very simple when it comes to BTC. No shorts, just day trading on the long side. H1 50 EMA is the new trend support that's being respected. Fast trend support has been the 12 and 21 EMA bands. So if it's strong, it's going to hold those green bands. If it needs a deeper flush, it's been holding that purple 50 EMA band, and I'd expect that to continue. So that's your fast trend. That's your slower trend in this current rally to look for support on any dips. But overall, looking at this gap here, this impulse candle to hold just like it did previously if we do get any dips. Otherwise, target is 117.8K liquidity if we do just go straight up in that scenario. And from there, that's when you can say, hey, okay, I'll look for some reversal signs. But if we then go to the higher time frames and the daily to look at a better picture of what's actually happening here, well, we've reclaimed the value area low. So go to the 4-hour quick. Had a nice close above that value area low. The longer we can trade above here, the more price acceptance that is, and the more likely we can then actually take a stab at 120k. So if we can remain above the value area low, that's bullish for bulls, and that is really what you want to see hold now, like it did so many times before breaking down. Therefore, you want to at least see it hold if it's going to have a chance of breaking up if we do get any downside. So we've entered back into the volume profile, that 70% of where the volume was traded in this distribution, which is a good sign to see. Just need to hold that value area low and accept within this box, which is where Bitcoin previously distributed. This is where sellers were happy to show up. So we now need buyers to overpower that selling. And that's going to be seen on the daily. So I want to say this very carefully to you guys. It's the 1st of October. You don't need to FOMO into anything crazy here. We've not even made a low for the month yet. Sure, could we keep rallying higher? Yes, we very much can. And on the daily, your best signal is going to be closing above this high. That's what I've been mentioning on the weekly outlook. You got this high over here, which when you close above it, that is what confirms your higher low. So if you see here, we set a low, you then set a high, you set a higher low, but this higher low is only confirmed if we can make that higher high. So that's why that's what's key to look for in the high time frame. You need to see a close above this high over here, and ideally a close above 120 if we can get it. And then from there, you're just looking for dips to potentially get on board, whether it's a shallow dip like I showed here, or whether it's close above and then you actually get a deeper dip on Bitcoin. Again, it's just that higher high, higher low structure that you want to see respected. So that's it for BTC on the high time frame. Again, it's October 1st. Don't need to start losing your mind, panicking, or making emotional decisions just because it's a big green day. You're getting bullish flows start of the month. It's very typical. It's Q4. It's Bitcoin's highest returning quarter. So there's going to be big players who literally just allocate first of the month because historically Q4 is high returning on Bitcoin. But that move has slightly been front ran towards the end of September. When traders expect that to play out, people front run it early, and this has been very inefficient in the entire move up. It has been a short squeeze. It looks to me more like a short squeeze so far than it does genuine accumulation. So when you look at accumulation, that is your tighter price action. It's when price is getting less and less volatile, and you start seeing candles like this, which start squeezing and squeezing and squeezing together, which then leads to your big rallies, your markups. And again, what is this? This is reaccumulation, leads to a markup. You then have another small reaccumulation here, leads to a markup, and then price actually forms a larger reaccumulation here, leads to a markup. And then since then, we saw the opposite. So we did see this sweep. This is more indicative of distribution, as you guys know. So we do have this bearish setup still at the moment until we can start closing above 120k and new highs, really. So you're kind of in limbo between where Bitcoin is right in the middle of the range, and you're like, is it bullish here? Is it bearish here? You're right smack bang in the middle until you start getting some of those confirmations. As I mentioned, you're literally in the middle here. So at the point where it could be a lower high bounce, and we could just top out over here or hit that liquidity before going lower and starting to fill in some of these gaps, and could still be bullish. Again, all you're looking for is a higher low to form That's going to be indicative of an uptrend, indicative of accumulation. If we can retrace and hold all the lows, fill in all the gaps. But if we just move up with higher volatility, then it's more likely to potentially even just take these highs and then come back down. It's yet to be seen, but all in all, the signal is high time frame, a weekly close above 120k, but low time frame, you can look for a daily close above this high and then just look for the higher low wherever that forms to potentially get allocated. So that's what I'm thinking on BTC. I'm going to be dropping a monthly outlook video either tonight or tomorrow night, so stay tuned for that. Going to dive into the higher time frame charts, the weekly, the monthly chart, the quarterly close. I know there's a government shutdown today. I'll dive into all that good stuff on the monthly outlook. Today, just going to keep it daily markets, morning markets, but there will be a high time frame analysis coming either tonight or tomorrow night. So stay tuned for that. Turn the bell on so you don't miss it. That's going to be a big one heading into Q4. And for now, just look at the daily charts, call it for what it is, wait for a high to be made, because still you don't want to get turbo retard bullish on the first day of the month. There is no lower wick and there is no confirmation yet of this actually being likely to be flipped into the bull's favor. Sure, the bands are turning green, so that is a good sign, but again, you can just wait for the next high low. That's what I'm going to be doing, at least after you get the confirmation. So that's it for BTC. When we look at Ethereum, what have we seen? Well, high time frame SR, that came in perfectly as support yesterday. Mentioned that over and over again. So if we go back to the morning market video yesterday, we go over to Ethereum. These were the paths I laid out. So if we go over here, said if we can hold the high time frame SR, where can I grab that? Over here. There we go. Boom. Another path playing out pretty much to perfection. Please, if you're enjoying these videos, hit that subscribe. Help me out, guys. I don't see anyone putting out this kind of content on YouTube with this kind of accuracy, because that's pretty much exactly what happened. You dipped right into the high time frame SR, held as support, beautiful long setup, and you're now blasting above the consolidation high. And you're in the territory of this gap over here, which is beginning to fill. Once they start to fill, they tend to fully fill. So while Big ETH is much weaker than Bitcoin, so not actually as interesting now that it's broken out, because if you look at ETH next to Bitcoin, what you can see is Bitcoin actually built a much nicer base. So go to the 1 hour chart. Bitcoin built a base at the highs. You see this consolidation over here. Again, this is low time frame accumulation. Same thing I was telling you about 5 minutes ago, just on the 1 hour chart, led to a lovely move. Whereas Ethereum, it had that same low volatility consolidation, but it was at the lows. Whereas Bitcoin was at the highs over here. Bitcoin's equivalent consolidations over here. So Ethereum's really squeezed up from the lows, whereas Bitcoin's squeezed up from the highs. It's much stronger in that sense. So while the Ethereum analysis has played out beautifully, Bitcoin longs have definitely been favorable. Maybe that changes as we go into the weekend. As I said, you get different flows. Wall Street are no longer present, so often all coins can run as Bitcoin loses its spotlight, so it allows for liquidity to focus more and potentially ETH takes over then. But at the moment, Bitcoin's got the better longs. However, high time frame support resistance level played out beautifully, got a bounce, now closing above the consolidation high. So you really just want to see that consolidation high hold on any dips. And if it does, you can probably target the weekend liquidity, or at least the gap fill around 4.4K. So that's what I'd look at when it comes to Ethereum. Switch to the 4 hour chart. We have confirmed a close above the consolidation high. So everything looks pretty nice here. Starting to fill in this gap. And when gaps start to fill, say it over and over again, they tend to fully fill. So the 4 hour gap is as follows. Up to 4442 would be the target. And then above there, the weekend liquidity. That's what I'd be looking at on ETH. But looks good overall. You're confirming that daily reversal, which I mentioned to look out for. You went below the high time frame SR, hit a weekly order block over here. So as you can see, Ethereum managed to close above the weekly, above that high time frame SR, wicked into the order block, into the 12 and 21 EMA bands. When you zoom into the daily, that set a trap over here. And it reclaimed the level, which now adds fuel to the rally. So ETH is looking to confirm a daily reversal here, if it can close the day above that consolidation high, which then looks good to, as I said, target some of these higher levels. So ETH looks good. Although, of course, I will say again, ETH Bitcoin definitely not got a bullish trigger as of yet on this chart. Bands are still red. Still in this scenario here where you want to wait for them to go green before you start picking longs on ETH over Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has the strength, which is what we wanted to see, guys. This is what you need, even for your altcoins. You need Bitcoin dominant strength to rise as Bitcoin rises, as then you can get new profits that can then flow down into your altcoins. You don't want to see the rotations too early, or rotations don't have as much force behind them. So you need this chart to keep rallying with Bitcoin. If you start to see Bitcoin rallying hard today on tomorrow and Bitcoin dominance falling, that's going to be an early warning sign. So be watching this chart carefully. You want to see it make new highs really today as the New York session comes in and ETF flows. Hopefully they can dominate on Bitcoin so we can push that chart higher. And later on, that's going to set up beautiful altcoin trading setups once Bitcoin starts distributing. And you want that distribution, as I said, to take place at the highest level possible, so there's the most profits possible to rotate around. So that is the update. Take a quick look at Solana. Not much interesting here again. As I mentioned yesterday, it's underperforming ETH, it's underperforming Bitcoin, following this green path still. So as I mentioned, as Solana is not bearish, because it's still above the yearly open. And as I said, anything above the yearly open is still okay. At the same time, it's not bullish because it did retrace this entire rally very quickly. So expectations here is for Solana to simply just consolidate. And even if the path looks more like this and you can just come back down, maybe that forms some type of pennant over here in the coming weeks and you get a nice compression. So we're just looking at that orange path. Remove this for a second, remove this. If we can get something like this even on Sol, that would be perfectly fine. Again, anything above the yearly open is bullish. We've just had a moment where momentum has been lost here. So price needs to consolidate, reaccumulate for higher. And it's only if we close below the yearly open that this turns bearish and we look at the lower liquidity targets. So that's it for Sol. Needs some time now. Needs some weeks, needs some months to reaccumulate after this heavy selling. That needs to be digested. And weak hands need to turn into strong hands and hold this chart up. And if it holds up, it's eventually then going to have its outperformance set up. But that's really it for the crypto market. Again, we look at gold quickly, just chatting higher. Asia, keep bidding. China, they keep bidding. Cause and effect is absolutely beautiful. Again, I'll dive into gold on the high time frame, stocks on the high time frame in more detail in monthly outlook, because it's very interesting what we're seeing. Who really DCAs into gold? That's a question you have to ask yourself, because no one does. People DCA into Bitcoin, they DCA into stocks, but it's only really smart money institutions that DCA into gold. And of course, don't get me wrong, some traders, retail traders, they do DCA long-term into gold, but I think that's what allowing gold to have such a beautiful rally is because the positioning isn't overly long on the retail dumb money side. So you're just seeing these beautiful breakouts continue. And as I said, while the daily 12 and 21 bands hold, expect them to continue holding and producing new highs until they don't. So gold is up. Stocks, they're consolidating, bouncing off this order block. So as long as it can hold this order block, it looks set for new highs. And that's good for markets. Stocks consolidating allows that Bitcoin trade to potentially catch up, which is something I mentioned in weekly markets. You want to see it catch up. Look at low cap stocks. they are again chopping around this all important all-time high level, which really is your high time frame, risk on, risk off investor appetite. It's where the market topped last cycle. It's where we topped in the 2024 altcoin rallies. And again, if we can now start blasting above it, that's going to show that things are getting later stage cycle for sure. But also at the same time, it's where the fun starts on your riskier assets. So looks good. Seeing start of the month flows be bullish, start of the quarter flows be bullish. That's the morning markets update. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Again, monthly outlook will be live either tonight or tomorrow night, depending on when I can get that one done. So GM everyone, happy trading. I'll see you guys in the next one.